The glittering Principality of Monaco has long stood as the ultimate crown jewel of international motorsport, an undulating ribbon of asphalt wedged between sheer mountain rock and the deep azure waters of the Mediterranean Sea. For nearly a century, this legendary street circuit has demanded absolute perfection from those who dare to race upon it, punishing the slightest lapse in concentration with unforgiving steel barriers. It is a place where sporting history is forged in fractions of a second, where engine notes echo off luxury high-rises, and where the global elite gather in an unparalleled display of wealth, fashion, and social prestige. On this particular afternoon, the atmosphere hanging over the pit lane was exceptionally electric, charged not just by the impending roar of turbocharged power units, but by the palpable convergence of Hollywood celebrity culture and elite global sports. The pre-race grid walk is traditionally a sacred hour of beautiful chaos, a fleeting window where the multi-million-dollar machines are aligned on the tarmac, surrounded by a swirling sea of engineers, team principals, security detail, and international VIPs. It is a live television spectacle where anything can happen, where raw tension meets high fashion, and where the intense focus of the athletes contrasts sharply with the casual glamour of the invited spectators. Amidst this dense crowd of influential figures, the flashing cameras and rolling television lenses naturally gravitated toward a highly exclusive entourage that had just stepped onto the grid, instantly elevating the media frenzy to an entirely new level. The presence of world-famous reality television stars alongside the elite drivers added a fascinating layer of cultural intrigue to an event that was already being broadcast to millions of homes around the globe. As the minutes ticked down toward the formation lap, the sheer scale of the media circus became overwhelming, setting the stage for a brief but incredibly loaded interaction that would soon dominate global headlines and spark a fierce debate across social media networks. This specific moment, capturing an unexpected clash of etiquette and boundaries on live television, serves as a powerful reminder of how quickly a casual's counter can transform into a cultural flashpoint when the world is watching. Before we dive deeper into the unfolding drama on the starting grid and explore how this single moment divided fans worldwide, make sure to subscribe to our channel so you never miss an exclusive breakdown of the biggest events in sports and entertainment. The nature of modern celebrity culture means that every gesture, every look, and every sudden silence is magnified 1,000 times, and on the grid at Monaco, the cameras were tracking every single move with absolute precision. For decades, the Monaco Grand Prix has resisted the changing tides of the world, maintaining an aura of old-world sophistication while simultaneously embracing the hyper-modern reality of global influencer culture. It is an environment where traditional sporting royalty meets the new architects of digital fame, creating a unique social ecosystem where unwritten rules of engagement are constantly being tested. The individuals walking the grid are often accustomed to complete control over their public image, surrounded by publicists and security teams trained to manage every interaction down to the microsecond. However, the live broadcast format of Formula One television coverage strips away that carefully managed control, forcing spontaneous encounters that expose the raw dynamics of fame, privilege, and professional duty. As the mechanics worked furiously around the cars and the tension reached a boiling point, the stage was set for an encounter that highlighted the fascinating friction between the insular world of motorsport and the expansive empire of modern American reality television. To truly understand why this brief television snippet caused such an immediate and passionate uproar, one must understand the unique traditions of the paddock and the deep respect that racing enthusiasts hold for those who have dedicated their lives to the sport. The starting grid is not merely a red carpet for promotional appearances. It is a highly dangerous, intensely focused workplace where drivers prepare for extreme physical and mental exertion and where the media acts as the vital bridge to the fans. When these two wildly different universes collided on the asphalt of Monte Carlo, the resulting friction was almost instantaneous, creating a wave of polarization that continues to reverberate through the sporting community. What appeared to some as a standard exercise in personal privacy and security management looked to others like a glaring display of entitlement and disrespect toward a legendary figure of the racing world. It is within this highly charged, atmospheric setting that the drama began to unfold, captured by high-definition lenses and beamed instantly across satellites to an audience hungry for both sporting excellence and high-profile human drama. The sheer contrast between the focused intensity of the mechanics preparing the cars and the relaxed, almost detached demeanor of the celebrity guests created a visual narrative that was impossible to ignore. As the countdown timers flashed above the team garages, a prominent broadcast microphone was extended into the crowd, initiating a sequence of events that would leave the internet entirely split down the middle. This encounter was not just a passing moment of awkwardness. It became a symbolic battleground where competing ideas about politeness, celebrity status, and the sanctity of sporting traditions were fiercely debated by millions of observers. The unfolding tension on the starting grid reached its peak when Martin Brundle, a highly respected former racing driver who has transitioned into one of the most recognizable and authoritative voices in motorsport journalism, made his way through the dense crowd. Armed with his signature microphone and a live television feed broadcasting to millions of viewers worldwide, Brundle was performing his traditional pre-race grid walk, a frantic and unscripted segment where he hunts for compelling interviews under intense time pressure. It was during this high-stakes broadcast that he spotted the high-profile American entourage, which included reality television icons Kim Kardashian and Khloé Kardashian, alongside their close friends Simon Huck and a specialized security detail. Navigating the tightly packed grid, Brundle approached Kim Kardashian with his usual professional confidence, extending his microphone and offering a polite, standard greeting by asking how she was doing on that beautiful race day. Instead of a direct response, the interaction immediately took a complicated turn as Kim smiled briefly but refrained from speaking into the microphone, choosing instead to turn her attention toward Khloé and Simon, who were engaged in conversation just a few inches away. Within seconds, the atmosphere became noticeably strained as an unidentified member of Kim's team, who was holding an umbrella to shield her from the sun, leaned forward to whisper something in her ear, while another handler physically stepped into the space between the reporter and the celebrity. This sudden movement prompted an immediate and firm reaction from the veteran broadcaster, who openly remarked on air that there was absolutely no need for anyone to push him, reminding the security detail and the audience that he is a permanent and long-standing fixture at these events. Although Kim then looked back toward Brundle, offering a polite smile and a wave, the actual communication barrier remained firmly in place as he attempted to salvage the interview by asking if she was enjoying her time at the Formula One event. Rather than answering, Kim appeared to share a brief laugh with her sister while gesturing toward her ear, signaling to the reporter that the overwhelming noise of the pre-race grid made it impossible for her to hear his questions. Despite this gesture, she made no further effort to close the distance or engage with the broadcast, and shortly thereafter an off-camera signal appeared to summon her away from the media fray entirely. After a very brief quiet exchange with an aide beside her and a quick gesture toward the left side of the track, Kim, Khloé, and Simon walked away, leaving the legendary broadcaster standing on the asphalt with an empty microphone. Turning back to the live camera, Brundle delivered a classic, dryly philosophical sign-off, noting to the global audience that they would clearly not be getting a conversation today, before turning on his heel to search for another subject. Within minutes of the broadcast concluding, the video clip of this awkward encounter was clipped, uploaded, and distributed across every major social media platform, instantly igniting an absolute firestorm of public opinion and media analysis. A significant and highly vocal portion of the internet immediately condemned the behavior of the reality star and her entourage, labeling the interaction as a textbook example of modern celebrity arrogance, entitlement, and unnecessary rudeness. Many passionate racing fans felt a deep sense of personal offense on behalf of Martin Brundle, pointing out that within the specific ecosystem of the paddock, a veteran driver and broadcaster holds far more institutional respect and relevance than any visiting Hollywood star. Social media timelines were rapidly flooded with angry comments from viewers who described the snub as deeply embarrassing and highly disrespectful to a man who was simply trying to execute his professional duties on a live broadcast. Critics argued that basic manners and common courtesy cost absolutely nothing, suggesting that even if she did not wish to give a full interview, a brief and polite verbal acknowledgement would have prevented the entire situation from escalating into a global PR nightmare. The prevailing sentiment among traditional motorsport enthusiasts was one of intense frustration, with many arguing that the starting grid should be reserved exclusively for individuals who respect the sport, rather than influencers who treat it as a backdrop for personal branding. On the other side of this intense digital divide, an equally passionate group of defenders stepped forward to shield Kim Kardashian from the overwhelming wave of online criticism, presenting a completely different interpretation of the events. These supporters argued that attending a sporting event, regardless of one's level of global fame, does not automatically obligate an individual to perform on command for a live television crew. They emphasized that the pre-race grid is an incredibly chaotic, deafening, and overwhelming environment, making it entirely plausible that Kim genuinely struggled to hear Brundle's questions amidst the roar of engines and crowd noise. Furthermore, some analytical observers suggested that her decision to remain silent may have actually been a deliberate and respectful choice intended to prevent her personal life from overshadowing the sporting event itself. Given that her presence at the Monaco Grand Prix was heavily tied to her closely guarded relationship with star driver Lewis Hamilton, defenders suggested she was actively trying to avoid creating a massive media distraction that would take the spotlight away from the drivers and the race. By refusing to give a soundbite, she may have been attempting to minimize her own footprint on a day that belonged to the athletes, knowing full well that any comment she made would be instantly scrutinized and spun into endless tabloid headlines. This ongoing and fierce debate highlights the fascinating clash between two entirely different worlds of fame, where the rigid expectations of traditional sports journalism collide head-on with the highly managed, protective strategies of modern reality television empires. As the video continued to rack up tens of millions of views across the globe, the public remained deeply divided over whether the incident was a glaring display of elite snobbery or a reasonable boundary set by a celebrity trying to navigate an overwhelming public space. To truly comprehend the depth of this global controversy, one must look beyond the immediate awkwardness of the viral clip and examine the profound cultural and personal histories that collided on the warm asphalt of Monte Carlo. For the millions of motorsport enthusiasts who felt a surge of indignation, the disrespect was not aimed at a random reporter, but at a living institution of the sport whose life story is deeply woven into the fabric of modern racing history. Martin Brundle is a man who earned his place on that grid through decades of physical bravery, competing in over 150 Grand Prix against legendary drivers like Ayrton Senna and Michael Schumacher during one of the most dangerous eras of the sport. His transition from the cockpit to the broadcast booth revolutionized how the world experiences Formula One, and his iconic pre-race grid walks have become a legendary tradition, celebrated for their unscripted, raw, and entirely democratic nature where everyone from mechanics to monarchs is treated with the same direct curiosity. To see a sporting hero of this caliber pushed aside by a wall of security guards and ignored by a reality television star felt to many fans like a symbolic violation of the sport's core identity and its traditional values of mutual respect and hard-earned merit. On the other hand, the journey of Kim Kardashian represents a completely different kind of modern empire, one built on the masterful navigation of public attention, constant media scrutiny, and the strict curation of personal boundaries in an era where privacy is almost impossible to maintain. For a woman whose every movement is analyzed by hundreds of millions of followers, a live, unscripted microphone represents a significant risk, a direct vulnerability that her massive apparatus of publicists and security personnel is specifically designed to eliminate at all costs. This protective barrier becomes even more vital when considering the delicate nature of her personal life, particularly her highly publicized but carefully guarded relationship with Mercedes superstar Lewis Hamilton, which served as the actual catalyst for her presence in Monaco. Hamilton, a seven-time world champion and a pioneering cultural icon in his own right, has spent his career breaking down traditional barriers and bringing the worlds of high fashion, art, and American celebrity culture directly into the traditionally insular European racing paddock. The relationship between Kardashian and Hamilton has been a source of intense media fascination for months, yet both individuals have made a conscious, concerted effort to keep their bond out of the aggressive glare of the tabloid headlines, preferring quiet support over public spectacle when seen through this specific lens. The silence on the grid transforms from an act of random, superficial rudeness into a calculated defensive maneuver designed to protect a private relationship and prevent a major sporting event from devolving into a Hollywood circus. Supporters point out that if Kim had accepted the microphone and spoken even a single sentence, the global media narrative would have shifted entirely away from the athletic achievements of the 20 drivers on the track and focused exclusively on her relationship status, effectively hijacking the Grand Prix for personal publicity. This incident is far from an isolated event, as it mirrors a growing tension within Formula One as the sport experiences an unprecedented explosion in global popularity, driven largely by digital media expansion and a brand new wave of younger, entertainment-focused fans. As the sport expands its footprint deeper into North America and attracts the world's biggest influencers, the traditional paddock culture is finding itself in a constant state of friction with the hyper-managed world of modern entertainment branding. In the days following the Monaco Grand Prix, the debate has refused to die down, evolving into a much larger conversation about the unwritten rules of public spaces, the responsibilities of celebrity guests, and the preservation of sporting heritage in a world dominated by viral clicks. Representatives for the Kardashian family have remained notably quiet on the matter, refusing to issue formal statements or engage with the online storm, a strategy that aligns perfectly with their long-standing approach to managing passing internet controversies. Martin Brundle, true to his veteran professionalism and trademark dry humor, has moved on to the next race, treating the encounter as just another unpredictable highlight in a long career spent interviewing the most eccentric and powerful personalities on Earth. Ultimately, this brief interaction on the Monte Carlo grid serves as a perfect microcosm of our modern cultural landscape, a vivid illustration of what happens when the relentless, unscripted pursuit of traditional journalism collides with the heavily fortified, entirely controlled universe of contemporary digital fame. Whether one views the moment as an unfortunate display of elite arrogance or a justified exercise in personal privacy, it remains an unforgettable chapter in the ongoing evolution of sports and entertainment, proving that sometimes a single silence can make far more noise than the roar of 20 racing engines.